My name is Sergeant Blake Carter, and I am 35 years old. I have spent most of my adult life moving between bases, but the one in West Texas has a way of settling into your bones with its dry heat and long stretches of quiet mornings. That morning began like any other until I stepped through the administrative wing and felt something shift around me. The air carried a sharp bleach smell that clung to the back of my throat, stronger than what the cleaning crew usually left behind. It was the kind of scent that told you someone had scrubbed harder than needed, the kind that made you pause without knowing why. I walked deeper into the hall, boots tapping in a rhythm that sounded too loud in the silence. The building always felt calm before sunrise, but this was different. It felt hollow, as if the space was holding its breath. My office sat at the far end, and I headed toward it with a sense of routine pulling me forward even while something tighter settled in my chest. A small shift of light caught my attention as I turned a corner, and that was when I saw him. An older janitor I had never met before stood near the supply closet with a mop in hand. His shoulders were slightly hunched, but his eyes were steady in a way that made me slow my steps. He did not look surprised to see me. He barely looked at me at all. He spoke with a quiet tone that brushed against the silence like a warning wrapped in calm. "Don't go into briefing room Alpha just yet." Then he turned back to his work as if nothing about this morning was out of place, though I already felt the ground shifting under me. I stayed in the hallway, my back pressed lightly against the cool concrete wall as I edged closer to the frosted glass window of briefing room Alpha. The lights were already on, and I could hear a low, steady voice pacing through a presentation. At first, it was just sound, muffled words about strategic zones and asset allocation. But then a slide came into view, and the air around me seemed to shift again. The color scheme was mine. The structure was mine. Even the slide transitions moved the way I'd set them. Then I saw it. Third slide in, there it was. Operationalization spelled with 2 eyes. I hadn't caught that typo before shutting down my laptop the night before. It was still there, burned into the corner of that slide like a fingerprint I didn't mean to leave. And now it was being projected onto a screen in front of a room full of brass. And standing in front of it all was Captain Mike Patterson. Pressed uniform, easy smile, and my work in his hands. The son of General Patterson, of course he'd get the floor. But this, I watched him click through each point like he had built it from scratch. His voice carried confidence but not understanding. He didn't pause where I would have. He didn't emphasize the threats buried beneath the intel. He just kept moving, steady and polished, reading off the surface of what I had created without knowing the foundation beneath it. I didn't move. I didn't blink. My body felt rooted to the spot, but my mind was spinning. It wasn't anger yet. It was something colder, something slower, like disappointment wrapped in disbelief. Like betrayal you haven't figured out how to feel yet. I had shared that strategy only with 2 senior officers. It was never uploaded, never printed. It had lived on my desktop and nowhere else. I didn't need more proof. That one typo was enough. That one moment told me everything. I was watching someone else wear my work like a uniform that didn't fit him. And the room had no idea. Maybe he thought I'd stay silent. Maybe he thought I wouldn't notice. But I did. And something deep inside me started to wake up. I found him in the same hallway, working a slow circle along the baseboards like he had all the time in the world. The smell of bleach still hung in the air, but less sharp now. He didn't look up when I walked over, just kept moving the mop in quiet, deliberate strokes, like this corner of tile was the only thing holding the building together. I stood beside him for a second, watching the path he traced with his mop. My voice felt too loud when I finally spoke. "Why'd you say that to me?" He paused, not stiffly, just a small pause in rhythm. The mop lifted half an inch, hovered, then he said, soft and without looking at me, "Figured you'd want to see for yourself." His words felt like an echo of something already known, not just by him but by the building, by the air, by the moment. He glanced up, briefly, eyes catching mine just long enough for something unsaid to pass between us. Not alarm, not surprise, just the weight of shared understanding. There was no trace of panic in him, No worry. It was like he had seen things like this before, maybe more times than he cared to count. Maybe this was just another tile to mop, another secret soaked into the floor. I leaned in slightly, searching his face for more. He didn't give much, just a small nod, the kind you give when you know something's been confirmed without needing to explain it. His hand tightened a little on the mop handle. Then he said it. Not everyone climbs the ranks the honest way. The words settled between us, not loud, not bitter, just true. I felt something stir in me then. A question I hadn't asked yet. How long had this been going on? How many other names, other decks, other briefings? The janitor didn't offer more. He didn't need to. He had already said enough. I took a step back, but I didn't thank him this time. Not out of rudeness, out of respect. He wasn't looking for gratitude. As I walked away, I could feel his presence behind me, not watching, just continuing, slow, steady, silent. Like he had done what he came to do. And whatever happened next, that was on me. The sense of calm he carried stayed with me all the way back to my office. Like a signal passed from one quiet witness to another. Back at my desk, I closed the door and turned off the overhead light. The glow from my monitor was enough. My hands moved without hesitation, fingers tapping through internal systems I knew too well. The file had been accessed at 0512, not from my desk, not from anywhere I had touched. The log listed Room Alpha, terminal ID matched the projector station, credentials, mine. I leaned back, staring at the screen. My keycard hadn't been used that early. I hadn't even left the barracks until nearly 6. I pulled up the gym check-in system, cross-referenced my entry, timestamp 0534. Surveillance caught me swiping in, stretching by the treadmills, nowhere near Room Alpha. It was airtight. Someone used my login before I ever stepped into the hallway, and they knew how to make it look clean. That was the part that got under my skin. The precision. Whoever did this had practiced. This wasn't some dumb mistake or one-time screw-up. This was careful. This was methodical. I dug deeper. Access logs, IP traces, login attempts. Every string I pulled seemed to lead back to one quiet spot. Patterson's usual terminals. Always after hours. Always before a big pitch. The timestamps didn't just match my absences. They anticipated them. It wasn't just this morning. That strategy file wasn't the first. I found traces of another one, 2 months ago. Same structure, same strange duplication in metadata. Like someone had copied the bones of my work and reshaped the skin. My jaw clenched. The glow from the screen didn't feel warm anymore. It felt like exposure, like standing in front of something too big to unsee. The betrayal ran deeper than I'd guessed. This wasn't just theft, this was a pattern. A system. Someone had decided my effort was worth hijacking, and they'd been doing it long enough to get comfortable. I stared at my own name in the login trail and felt something shift. Whatever line they crossed, it ended here. No more guessing. No more giving the benefit of the doubt. It was time to build the case piece by piece. And this time, I wasn't going to leave a single corner untouched. I opened folders I hadn't touched in months. Old campaigns, logistics models, strategic outlines from late nights when everyone else had gone home. I scanned through each slide, each set of notes, looking for patterns I hadn't noticed before. And there they were. The phrasing, the formatting, little details no one else would have copied by accident. One of my old restructuring drafts from last year matched Patterson's last pre-deployment pitch almost word for word. It wasn't just similar, it was mine. The cadence, the build-up, even the way I had color-coded the risk matrix. I hadn't realized how many times I had been robbed until I started holding the evidence up side by side. I reached out to Ramirez, a buddy who had worked with me on that original plan. I sent him one of Patterson's recent slides, not saying much. His reply came back fast. "Didn't you write this last spring?" I stared at those words and felt something crack. Not from shock this time, but from recognition. He remembered. I remembered. And now the pieces were fitting too well to ignore. The betrayal didn't feel sharp. It felt dull, like bruises that had been there all along but were only now turning dark. I sat back, watching the cursor blink in an empty message window. There was nothing left to speculate. No room to pretend it was a coincidence. This wasn't a single offense. It was a pattern. And the more I looked, the more I saw how deep it went. Patterson had been climbing, not just on his own charm or his father's name, but on the quiet backs of people like me. I wasn't just angry. I was done being quiet. I didn't waste time. I gathered everything. Access logs, system timestamps, metadata. Copies of the presentation files with identical formatting. GPS pings from my phone, showing I was across base at the gym when the files were uploaded. I even printed stills from security footage, frame by frame, showing my absence from the office that morning. Each piece went into a folder. I labeled every page, clipped it clean. This wasn't going to be a complaint or a rant. It was a case. One built like I'd been trained to build it. Tight, direct, undeniable. The last thing I added was a screenshot of the typo. A small mistake on slide 3. One I remembered leaving in late at night when my eyes were blurry. That typo was there in Patterson's pitch. Word for word. Down to the exact font alignment. There was no room for doubt now. I walked the folder across base, the cold morning air clearing my head. My boots echoed on the tile as I headed down the hall to Major Ramirez's office. He wasn't known for being warm, but he was known for being fair. If anyone could look past rank and family name, it was him. His door was closed. I knocked once, firm. His voice answered, flat and unreadable. I stepped in, shut the door behind me. He looked up from a stack of paperwork. I didn't sit. I placed the folder on his desk. He didn't move, just kept his eyes on me. I met his stare and held it. Then I said it. This is not just a copy-paste. This is theft. He didn't flinch. His hand moved slowly to the folder. He opened it, flipped to the logs, the camera timestamps, the GPS coordinates. I stayed quiet. Let the facts speak. When he reached the slide with the typo, he paused. I could see it register. He knew. Maybe not all the history behind it, but he saw what mattered. That the person standing in front of him hadn't come with suspicions. He'd come with proof. The silence stretched. Not uncomfortable, not hostile, just deliberate. Ramirez finally leaned back in his chair. His expression hadn't changed, but the weight in the room had. Something had shifted. He didn't ask questions, didn't press for more. He didn't need to. Everything he needed was already on the desk in front of him. I gave him a nod and turned toward the door. His voice stopped me. Leave the original. That was it. No comfort, no promises. Just the sound of a man who now had a job to do. I walked out with nothing in my hands, but something solid in my chest. A line had been crossed, and now someone was finally drawing it in ink. The room was too quiet for that many people inside. Dozens of senior officers sat in tight rows, the polished table reflecting nothing but tense faces and folded hands. Patterson stood at the front, sleeves crisp, eyes locked on the big screen behind him. His voice filled the room, steady, confident. He didn't know what was coming. Major Ramirez entered without announcement. I followed, silent, calm. The folder in my hand no longer just evidence, but consequence. Patterson paused mid-sentence. A few heads turned. Then all of them did. You could feel the shift. The air dropped a few degrees. Ramirez's voice cut through like a scalpel. Who accessed Sergeant Carter's account this morning? No build-up, no lead-in. Just that question aimed like a blade. The room stilled. Patterson blinked, mouth open just enough to show he wasn't ready. His hand tightened around the clicker. He didn't answer. I stepped forward and laid the folder on the table. I spoke slowly, deliberate. Every word, sharp enough to cut. You don't just stumble into someone's strategy folder, crack it open, and pretend it's yours. Patterson opened his mouth, but nothing came out. I kept going. The login came from this room. At 0521. My credentials. I was at the base gym. Cameras confirm it. GPS pings back it up. Metadata, file paths, all match the upload time. Every piece points in one direction. I flipped open the folder, turned it toward the room. Slide 3. That typo, it was mine. Same one from the draft on my personal drive. Never shared, never uploaded. You presented it word for word. Someone cleared their throat. It sounded too loud. Patterson's face started to pale. He looked at Ramirez, then at the screen. His voice cracked when he finally spoke. Maybe it auto-saved from a team folder. I didn't even blink. There's no team folder, Mike. Just mine. And you dug through it. Not just once. I've got 6 other decks, all showing signs you've been lifting my work for months. Ramirez remained silent. He didn't need to say anything. The weight of the facts was already pressing down hard. The generals leaned in now, scanning the evidence. One of them muttered something about chain of command. Another whispered that this could trigger a full internal review. Patterson tried again, weak. Misunderstanding, miscommunication. The words didn't hold. I stepped in closer. This isn't a misstep, it's a pattern. Repeated, intentional. And today, you stood in front of the highest-ranking officers in this division and lied to every one of them. For the first time, Patterson didn't try to speak. He just stared. Ramirez picked up the folder. His voice was quiet. I'll take it from here. The moment was done. The silence wasn't empty anymore. It was full of truth. By the end of the week, Patterson was off the roster. No ceremony, no salute, just a quiet notice about reassignment pending investigation. His office was cleared before noon. No one asked questions. Everyone already knew. They called me into the strategy wing that afternoon. The offer was there. Led on the upcoming cross-division project. A role with weight. I didn't celebrate. I didn't need to. I gave a firm nod and said I'd take it, not for the title, for the work. Back at my desk, I plugged in my laptop. The hum of the screen felt steadier than it had in days. I opened the campaign plan, the same one that had caused all this. This time, my name was on the title slide, just as it always should have been. No edits, no erasures, just mine. I sat back, let the silence settle around me. It wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. The win wasn't about applause. It was about truth finally standing on its own. Out in the hallway, the janitor passed again. Same pace, same mop, like always. Our eyes met just for a second. He gave a small nod. I returned it. Nothing said. Everything understood. He kept moving, and so did I. Not out of spite, not out of revenge, just forward. That's all I'd wanted. There was a time when I thought you had to raise your voice to be heard. But now I know sometimes the quiet moments carry more weight. The truth doesn't always arrive with a bang. Sometimes it's a quiet footstep in a hallway. A nod from someone who knows. A name on a slide that finally stays. I closed the file and got to work. The real kind. The kind no one else could take. Not anymore. A few days later, I stopped by logistics. Just a quiet question, nothing formal. I asked who the janitor was that cleaned our wing Monday morning. The one with the gray beard and the steady hands. They pulled up the roster, scanned it twice, looked again. There was no one by that description on shift that day. No agency record, no name, no trace. I didn't press. I didn't need to. I thanked them, left the office, and didn't ask again. Back at my desk, I opened the original slide deck one last time. The typo still sat there on slide 3, just where I'd left it. It looked strange now, like an old scar you forgot about until it catches the light just right. I printed the slide. Just that one. Folded it once. Slid it into the top drawer of my desk and closed it gently. Not as evidence. Not as proof. But as a marker. A piece of me no one could rewrite or present as theirs again. He didn't need to come back. He had said enough. Sometimes the right voice doesn't shout. Sometimes it just shows up at the right moment. Wipes the corner of a baseboard. Leaves a sentence behind. I never saw him again. But I carried that morning with me. And every time I opened that drawer, I remembered that truth has its own way of finding light. Even when it walks in wearing janitor blues. In the military, we're trained to protect assets, defend ground, and secure information. But no one ever teaches you how to defend your own name. Not until someone tries to take it from you. What Patterson tried to steal wasn't just a plan. It was the nights I stayed late, the doubts I pushed through, the belief that what I was doing mattered. He tried to wear my work like his own skin. And for a while, it worked. But here's what I learned. They can take your slides, your files, even your credit. But they can't steal your truth. They can't touch your honor if you don't let them. And if you stand up for it, even quietly, it has a way of echoing louder than any lie. That day changed how I carried myself. I still work the same. I still show up early and stay late. But now I do it knowing no one gets to rewrite my name on the things I've built. Not again. I keep that printed slide in my drawer not to remember the theft, but to remind myself of the reclaiming. Because in the end, what matters isn't the noise people make when they take from you. It's the quiet moment when you take it back. So let me ask you something. Has anyone ever stolen your work, your credit, your voice? And if they did, how did you take it back? Or are you still waiting to